And good morning. I apologize for this camera angle. I have to put it somewhere to get the both of us in the shot. So you're up there instead of right here where you belong. But you can see us both, and that's a good thing.
Yes, and either it makes Chris look slightly smaller or me slightly larger.
Slightly. So, good morning. What are we talking about, Cameron?
It's Meme War Monday, and we're memifying the fact that the left can't meme, in particular, about abortion in Texas and trolling websites, and there's a lot to get through here. We're gonna get into as much as we can, but needless to say, we're talking about Texas and abortion and how the left can't meme.
So, just a quick little go get the full news on the abortion law itself. Elsewhere today, we're going to talk about the fallout from it, but just a quick summary: Texas passed a new abortion law that effectively bans all abortion after 6 weeks, and the Supreme Court voted 5-4 not to hear a case in an attempt to overthrow the law. Right, there was a case brought, and the objective was to try and get the Supreme Court to declare that murder is a constitutional right, and they refused to do it. So, hey, Kavanaugh and Barrett finally did something good. I haven't been especially impressed with Trump's Supreme Court picks so far.
Yeah, the one that nobody talks about is the one that has caused the feud. What was his name? Not Gorsuch. That was. Remember, Trump had one Supreme Court nominee.
That's Gorsuch.
Neil Gorsuch? No.
No, Gorsuch is the Gorsuch was the Obama was the Obama shitburger that's now the
DA?
Secretary of
something. I don't know. I've been on vacation for a
He's
month.
the Attorney General.
That's right.
Which, wow.
He's the ag gen.
Wow. Yeah, that was.
Anyhow, extraction from rabbit hole.
Didn't
ongoing.
think I could miss Eric Holder. So.
Anyhow, the Supreme Court says, nope, we're not hearing it.
Correct. And the left is outraged. Yes, the death cult is outraged at the idea that murder is not a human right.
Well, and
just because you use, just because I use clever euphemisms like take care of him, or put him on ice, or let's fit him with a pair of concrete galoshes. Using a clever euphemism like abortion or termination does not change what you're doing. You are murdering, and in this case, a completely defenseless baby. Now,
and look, let's be clear, okay? We're not talking about just murdering a baby or calling it termination or whatever. We're talking about an activity that is really one of the left's worship at the pillar of their religion, sacrosanct kind of things, right? Abortion is one of their tenets. It's a big fucking deal to them.
It's a prime religious tenet for them.
And there's so much wrapped up into it. Discussed this before about how one of the reasons why I believe abortion is so important to the left is once you hit a woman with the abortion and you get her to either accept someone else's abortion or get an abortion herself, you've probably made a lifelong convert to every leftist cause. Because in order to stay behind the idea that abortion is okay, you have to stay behind every other leftist idea. If you consider, for example, that cutting the corporate tax rate might actually be good for the economy, you also have to consider that you might have either murdered a baby yourself or allowed a friend or family member to murder a baby, and you supported them. So I mean, this is a real big deal. And of course, the left's reaction really expresses all that. Like, to lie, to flood the tip line, and all that. It's
And let's be clear about something. This, like this image, this is not an outlier, right? We're not talking about people who are. We're not talking about people who are in a desperate situation with an unsavory solution, right? We're talking about women who are. They're celebrating murder. They're insisting that they're not pro-choice. They're pro-abortion. These advocates prefer the abortion of a child. They prefer the murder of unborn children to the having of children. See, it's not that they are not arguing for the right to make a choice. Okay? They're arguing for the right to murder. And we'll get into some of these arguments in a minute as well, but you'll see all these arguments that, oh well, but what about rape victims? What about incest? What about oh God, I think it was Don Lemon the other day was saying, a lot of Down syndrome children are aborted, and now there's going to be more of those. Oh God, oh heavens, there are going to be children that are less perfect than the rest of us, and we might have to talk to them.
Does the man really not understand the pro-eugenicist argument he's making when he says that? Like, especially as a gay black man, that's right. Not the path you want to walk down.
He's standing on a soapbox and demanding that he's standing on a soapbox demanding that we burn the Jews. He's demanding that we select a group of people based on an immutable characteristic and eradicate them on that basis. Okay, let's say that through the use of abortion we manage to eliminate Down syndrome entirely and a handful of other general birth defects. How long is it before we start attempting to measure the probable intelligence quotient produced by a given pair of people and eliminate their children because they might not be as smart as we would prefer them to be?
Oh, yeah. No, that whole designer baby thing is not... That would be one of the most terrifying aspects of it. It would be a eugenicist's wet dream. And ironically, Margaret Sanger would approve, seeing as to how she was a ginormous racist who wanted to normalize abortion so black people would kill themselves.
And said so explicitly. This is not something that that claim is not something that you assimilate, that you assume, that you infer from her policies, positions, or the placement of the various abortion clinics. It's explicitly stated in the founding documents of the Planned Parenthood organization that the purpose is to retard the population growth of the African American. That's explicitly.
So that woman that you just had the picture of, I think she's a fantastic example of what I was talking about. I don't think that woman was always that crazy. I think there was some crazy already there, sure, maybe some daddy issues and a few other things, but then she had the abortion. And after she had the abortion, she had to be a warrior for the cause.
Right.
For life.
Because now she's committed a sin that she cannot face up to. And her only moral and emotional recourse is to make the argument that what she did was not wrong. Right? And okay, let's take the life of the mother example. Before we dig into it, the life of the mother argument fails on its face. So here's what you got. You've got a woman pregnant in labor, right? Because that's the life of the mother argument. That if she carries this baby to term, she is likely to die. If it is the case that the baby is going to cause the mother to die, even early in the pregnancy, that is a very difficult conversation to have. It is also nearly unheard of. Because normally when you're talking about life of the mother, you're talking about distress in pregnancy. At which point the answer is to deliver the baby. Right? You may be delivering several weeks early, and the baby ends up in the the ICU. But when you say, well, mommy might be in trouble if we, it's not mommy's going to be in trouble if we don't kill this baby. It's mommy's going to be in trouble if we don't get the baby out of mommy. So what happens when you decide to abort at that state is, rather than go straight to the procedure where you remove the baby from the equation so that mommy is no longer in distress from having the baby inside her, instead of just going directly to that by either an induced early labor or a cesarean section, you're introducing a completely additional surgical procedure where you either introduce dangerous poisons into the mother's system in an attempt to kill the baby chemically, or you perform a life-threatening procedure on the mother in an attempt to kill the baby before you then still, having killed the baby, have to remove it from the mother's body through either a forced delivery or a cesarean section. So it is never the case that abortion is going to be the thing that saves the woman's life in a distressed labor. You're adding an additional level of risk in order to kill the baby. In order to commit that murder, you are putting the woman's life at greater risk every time once they're on the table. Now, let's back up a little bit off of the distressed pregnancy or the distressed labor and go to a distressed pregnancy. Yes, there are pregnancies where the woman just is not capable of carrying a baby. Now, those cases are varied and complex and exceedingly rare when considered against the totality of abortions. The same thing is true with rapes. Very, very few abortions are performed because a woman got pregnant during a rape. A rape, as awful as it is, and as much as I would absolutely execute every single rapist I could prove, well, in an even rarer set of circumstances, it is almost always a one-off, right? You're not talking about a woman who's been raped repeatedly repeatedly in a short period of time. The chances that you actually get pregnant from any given sexual encounter are actually pretty low. Individually.
Yes.
So you need a stack of them to stack up for that, for the odds to be in your favor that you actually get pregnant.
And this is coming from 2 men with 4 children.
Yep.
You know, the problem, and we've talked about this.
And let's be real, there was a lot of practice around those 4 successes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
If we were talking about a sports career, I put a lot of L's on the board before we check that win column.
Yeah, I love to play pool. I'm terrible at it, but I'm terrible at putting those balls in the pocket than I am at getting women pregnant. But the whole thing about the exceptions, and we've talked about this before. We did a show years ago now where we talked about the math behind abortion, and even according to the most liberal sources we could find, the whole incest, rape, health and life of the mother thing only accounts for about 10% of all abortions. And then as you move to the scale, I think you could say that we're talking about 3% of all abortions are rape, incest, and life of the mother. Combined, right? But again...
And that's only assuming that you accept the argument for life of the mother, because, like I just described, the vast majority of life of the mother cases are not that.
But even then, let's just roll with the leftist figure of 10% of abortions are for those reasons. Well, that means 90% of them are not. That means 90% of every abortion that happens is because of somebody's choice. And they make that choice because of a choice they made previously.
They're elective surgeries.
They're elective surgeries, and a good number of them are funded by us. You want to compromise on abortion? Okay, fine. Let me give you an actual compromise that a whole bunch of hardline right-wingers will get behind and be 100% okay with it, all right? No more tax dollars ever again go to any type of abortifacient service, ever. Period. End of sentence. You make that compromise, and there's a whole lot of guys like Chris and I that, yeah, we won't be happy with it, but we might be willing to back off.
Actually, I'd be really happy with that option. If I could not be charged for the abortions that are happening, and it were only the leftists who want to have abortions who are aborting children that they will not raise to vote for Joe Biden, I'm on. I'll play.
And then there's
when the enemy, you should not interrupt the enemy when he's making a mistake.
Well, fair enough. And then there's the other side of it where this is such a one-sided set of laws. This is such a one-sided set of attitudes toward the law. Now, men are required to sign up for the draft, and if you don't think that violates your bodily autonomy, then you don't understand the phrase itself. And then, no matter what the woman chooses to do, if the woman, let's say it's the inverse. It's not the man that wants to keep it and the woman that wants to abort it. It's the woman that wants to keep it and the man that wishes she would abort it. Well, guess what? The man's on the hook for 18 years of his life. He's going to pay between 10 and 25% of his salary for the next 18 years. And if he does not, he can have his taxes withheld. He can have his license suspended. He can even spend time in jail because he does not want to financially support a child he would choose to get rid of if he had the opportunity.
Steve says maybe men should be less frivolous about their scorecards and seek quality women. Yes, abso-freaking-lutely, 100%. And okay, and I'm glad you mentioned the men's rights thing because that's gonna be part of the argument in this block here. Okay, so this clever chickie says if a fetus is a person at 6 weeks pregnant, is that when the child support starts? So she's got a list of questions. Is that also when you can't deport the mother because she's carrying a U.S. citizen? Can I insure a 6-week fetus and collect if I miscarry? Just figure if we're going here, we should go all in. We're going to handle each of those questions individually, and here we go. So the first one is that when the child support starts. I'm in.
Is that when?
Because if you're sticking, I mean, if you're in the house raising the baby and not paying child support because you don't have a divorce, a custody question, so on and so forth, then you're doing the right thing. You're raising them babies. Then yeah, I'm already paying for the development of that child at 6 weeks as the breadwinner in a house with a housewife, or even with a wife who's got her, who's got a job, a career, or even a part-time job. At 6 weeks, I am paying for that. So if you're going to be paying child support, then absolutely. And when you're talking about somebody paying child support, starting the child support at 6 weeks, you're talking about something akin to a one-night... Okay, maybe they've been dating for years and years and years and then got pregnant and split before... Rarely, and probably not. You're talking about somebody who is... You're talking about a pregnancy resulting from a one-night stand, and absolutely, you bear responsibility for that baby. I mean, you did the deed, you spilled the seed, you fill the need, my friend.
Hey, well, is that when paternal rights start as well?
That's what I was about to get to, but before I get to there, the other part of that is most of your cases where you're talking about child support, you're talking about a divorce or
a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm. The child has already been born, and there is a custody argument, and that's where the child support is initiated. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, I'd be happy to see the courts start child support at heartbeat if child support is going to be in question there. But let's be clear, there are already a lot of problems with the balance of power in the courts, and family courts especially. Men get very much the short end of the stick. If you're out there slinging seed for chuckles in the bars and I don't know, the discos, where do the kids spill
Probably
their seed
not the
these
discos,
days? But if you're out there doing the wrong thing and you get caught, well, that's a big chunk of your life gone, because whether you stick around and do right or you don't, once the courts get a hold of you there, you're losing a big chunk of your income and are, like he said, you lose your license, go to jail, etc., etc. That's not where you want to be. And the courts are extremely one-sided on those arguments. So at the end of the day, I say start child support at heartbeat. Or, I'm sorry, at conception.
Well, but there's an additional problem with that. There's the need to prove paternity. There's never any doubt who the mother is.
You know, we had a buddy who had a baby mama, and she came after him for child support on a child he didn't even know she had. They were together for a while. She was a dope head. They split up, and then all of a sudden she was pregnant. And he didn't know she was pregnant until after the baby was born. She came after him through the courts to try and go for child support. And he insisted, I will not pay any child support unless I see a paternity test. And she refused to do the paternity test, and the judge said, oh, well, tough shit, sweetheart. If you won't prove prove the paternity of the child, then he is not on the hook for child support. 5 years later, she came back around and did produce a paternity test, proving that he was the father. He had never met the child at that point, because as far as he knew, I mean, I would have been
not his child.
I would have been deeply suspicious too if she refused the paternity test. It wasn't his kid. He never met the kid, and all of a sudden she comes in and he's on the hook for child support on a 5-year-old kid. Fast forward a few years later, he's deployed to Iraq, and baby mama goes to the courts and says, hey, he just got a big pay raise. He owes more child support. Right? Well, he was active duty Army. His child support was being paid through payroll deduction, so she got paid before he did. Right? But it came out automatically. Well, when she went to the courts and insisted that he was making more money now and so she should get paid, they did issue an order to increase his child support, which they mailed to his home address here in the States while he was deployed to Iraq for a year. And when he got back and stepped off the plane, they arrested him for not paying his child support, even though he had been paying the original amount through payroll deduction automatically the entire time he was deployed. Because they adjusted his amount, they locked him up for not paying his child support. And of course, once he got in front of a judge and it was explained to the judge, look, the money that she's talking about is combat duty pay and hazard pay and an increase in cost of living allowance. It's all combat related pay, which is non-taxable and is not accessible to the court for the purpose of child support under the law. That the judge was stunned that the lawyer had even had the temerity to bring the case, dismissed it entirely, dismissed all the charges, and our snaggletooth friend was free to go. I've struggled not to say his name. I just think it would be impolite. I believe that at least 80% of the people watching know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've got a clue.
But but that was a case where the court just said, "Oh yeah, we've got a lying crack whore here who's willing to come in here and rob a man blind in clear violation of the law. And, yeah, we're good with it because bitches."
Bitches. So we're coming up on time, and there's something that I wanted to say.
I got all the time in the world. I want to get through all these questions.
Discipline, buddy. Format.
Format's one thing. I want to finish this show. You can walk away. There's only 3 more questions.
Okay, well, question.
No, I'm sorry. There's only 2 more questions here that I want to deal with, and they're not going to take nearly as much time, or rather, they don't have to.
Question.
Okay, so the next question. Is that also when you can't deport the mother because she's carrying a U.S. citizen? This one's easy. If you're a criminal alien and you're pregnant in the United States, that child is not a citizen. The 14th Amendment is very clear. Citizenship is an attribute of those born naturally to this country and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If you're a criminal alien You are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States only under the military assumption that you are a hostile foreign invader, which you are, because you are a criminal in violation of an international border law. So the jurisdiction to which you are subjected is your host nation. So if you are a Mexican who has come here illegally, then the correct answer is to deport you and your offerings back to the jurisdiction to which you are subject. And if they don't want to punish you for risking an international incident, that's on them. Our problem is our people. We need to take care of our people. And if you stumbled across the border just so you could drop an anchor baby, I'm sorry. There is no country on this planet that has birthright citizenship. Even though in this country there is enough cowardice infecting our court system that they just tend not to argue the position. That's what's really happening. The idea that a baby born in the U.S. is a citizen no matter what is false. That's not a matter of opinion. That is a matter of law as written. And the only reason it keeps getting treated as if there is birthright citizenship is because our Supreme Court is a coward, is a bastion of cowardice without any functional enforcement mechanism that refuses to uphold the law.
Yeah, and frankly, this is easy for me. Remember when Trump floated the idea about ending birthright citizenship? God. You remember when
That was the moment I knew he was going to win the election.
No, just do you remember when Trump, ellipses,
Yep.
fill in the blank.
Remember when Trump, and you could fill your gas tank up for less than a weekly paycheck? Remember when Trump, and you could buy a dozen eggs without having to scratch under the couch for change?
Remember when Trump would go off prompter, and even if he said some bizarre shit, at least it was like a sentence and a paragraph and then another paragraph?
Or Covfefe?
That was funny. That was...
And then the last one, and this one's actually pretty easy to deal with. Can I insure a 6-week fetus and collect if I miscarry?
Ooh,
Okay.
2 insurance guys here. We know how this works.
And this one's too easy. Because what we're talking about in the first 2 questions is a matter of law. Right? Funny story about insuring an unborn child. Lloyd's of London will insure the breasts of a porn star to the tune of several $1 million in the event that in an accident she might get one scarred and it affect her ability to earn an income based on her existing profession. You can literally insure anything. The only law that prevents you from taking out an insurance policy on anything is that it is unlawful to commit fraud by insuring something with the intent of collecting on that insurance policy in circumstances outside of the scope of the contract. So if you take out an insurance policy on your house because you want to burn the house down and then collect the insurance payment, that's illegal because you're lying when you sign the contract. So as far as taking out an insurance policy on an unborn baby, the only reason you cannot take a life insurance policy out on an unborn baby now, it has nothing to do with the law. It is only because the policy itself is not a viable insurance product. Because child mortality is high enough, and the insurability period is so short. The actuarial tables on a life insurance policy for an unborn baby are prohibitively expensive. They're so expensive that even if the companies chose to offer the policies,
you wouldn't buy it.
You wouldn't buy it because you'd be paying you'd basically be paying the face value of the policy. If you wanted a $100,000 life insurance policy, you would have to pay them $100,000 up front. Probably $150,000 up front because they want that profit margin. It's a business. You gotta have a profit margin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be $110,000 up front. Probably 10% float on a 9-month policy. 10% float, less commission. Yeah, that'd be about right. Maybe 110, 112.
Something like that.
So, but yeah, it's not hard. The law does not prevent the policy from existing. Demand does. Nobody wants a life insurance policy on their unborn child.
Well, and I happen to know this because I've written several policies on babies. One of the insurance jobs that I had was one of those where they've had the same insurance company since like grandma, and then grandma talked, the kids into getting it, and then the kids talked to the grandkids into getting it and whatever. So I've insured babies. And for that company, the baby had to be 2 weeks old before you could insure it.
Yeah.
Now, it was damn near a guaranteed issue as long as there were
the Koreans won't even give them a name until they're a year. I'm sorry, 100 days. 100 days.
Now, it was...
They call it the Bekil.
Yes, it was damn near a guaranteed issue once that point was hit. There was no additional health problems. But for the first 2 weeks, you could not write a policy on a baby because, shit like SIDS and crib death is real.
Yep.
It still happens sometimes.
And to be clear, that was a policy of the company. That was the rules of the company on how they handled the private business of their company. That's not a matter of law that prevented them from issuing that policy.
That's correct. Yeah, there was nothing in the law that said that it couldn't be done. It was a choice made by that private company. Steve, bless him, has a fantastic comment.
Yes.
Says we should post the show link on
and
her
since
Twitter.
we haven't had
tag
one
her.
yet, that's for you, Steve, my man.
Yeah, and then man, the left can't. We didn't really get to many of the memes, but man, the left can't meme. In fact, they're passing. I've seen this passed around on other social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook, as though this is somehow a brilliant
This is a tweet
meme.
from Twitter, but I actually snagged it off of Facebook. I snagged the image of it off of Facebook.
The left can't meme. They just can't.
And yeah, Steve, you're right. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go look her up on Twitter and post a link to this show as a reply to this comment.
That's
obvious.
That's funny. That is how you troll, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And speaking of trolls, if you really, really, really want to understand why Chris and I have these exact opinions about abortion and why we feel the way that we feel about it, you should go back and watch Dr. Randomer Cam's response to Busy Phillips talking about her abortion. Because at first it doesn't make sense, and then you get about halfway through it and you realize exactly what's going on in this response, and it is utterly heartbreaking. Oh, are we just gonna look that up and post the?
Yeah, I'm just gonna drop the link in there. Is it Bizzy?
No, it's Busy Phillips, as in like get busy. Not Bussy. It's called... Busy Phillips calls limbo. Is this really only 5 minutes long? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's only 5 minutes long, and
it's
a fantastic video, and it's the darkest comedy. So there you go, guys. Y'all go check that out, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Y'all be safe out there.